Welcome to the Be Better Show. I'm here today with guest Dr. Maria Trent Corey. Here at the Be Better Show, it's our weekly show to help you get better. It was a passion project of mine since its inception. So it's a passion project where I try to heal myself and my patients. And so I like to have topics that are pertinent to my patients and pertinent to me and what I see often. And so we have a guest that I am super, super excited about, Dr. Maria Trent Corey. Dr. Maria Trent Corey is a double board certified psychiatrist for children, adolescents, and adults. She earned her bachelor degree from Yale University, her doctorate of medicine from the University of North Carolina at Chapel Hill of Medicine, and she completed the adult psychiatric residency and child and adolescent fellowship at the University of Maryland Medical Center and Sheppard Pratt Hospitals. Dr. Corey is the owner and CEO of Elite Excellence LLC, her premier private practice in Annapolis, Maryland, where she specializes in helping kids and adults overcome their depression, anxiety, and ADHD through medication management, individual therapy, education, and lifestyle changes. In addition to Maryland, Dr. Corey is board certified and she's credentialed in Illinois and DC, where she does virtual telehealth services. So that's to you, my audience, as I'm in Chicago. Dr. Corey is also the author and illustrator of Who Will I Be? It's All Up to Me, a fun interactive book about a boy's exploration of his values and the powerful impact they make on his life and the lives of those in his community. Dr. Corey loves to travel, enjoys incorporating fitness and spirituality into her daily life, seeks out opportunities for growth and self-improvement, and relishes quality time with her 2 children and her husband. Welcome, Dr. Corey. I'm so honored to have you on the Be Better Show.
Thank you, Dr. Brooks. It's a pleasure to be here with you.
Awesome. So today what we are going to be talking about is complex PTSD. I brought it to her as complex trauma, but again, this is the Be Better Show. So often I see, again, from myself and my patients, how trauma and adverse childhood events and just, your life has an effect on your overall health and your well-being and kind of how you're able to function day to day. And so this is something that I wasn't even really aware of complex PTSD or complex trauma. And I know they're not interchangeable. You'll distinguish that for me. But I wasn't even aware of coming out of medical school how much trauma and lived experiences affected our day-to-day life, right? Okay. I was a whole attending before I even had heard of like an ACE score. And I'm a family medicine doctor, right? Like I see children as a common part of, that's my day-to-day. So Dr. Corey, can you tell us what is complex trauma? Or sure. Not complex PTSD?
Sure. Okay. Sure, no problem. So let me even start with PTSD. So PTSD is post-traumatic stress disorder. And it's basically an anxiety disorder, a persistent chronic anxiety disorder that results from either real or perceived trauma. It can be like a life-threatening event. It can be an emotionally scary event. So it could be like abuse. It could be neglect. It could be, if it's soldiers that have been to war, if you've witnessed a lot of violence, if you've even had the threat of violence. Several of those things, or even just, persistent racism that you may be encountering, or just microaggressions, you know what I'm saying? All of that counts as trauma. Yes, and so basically trauma. What happens is that with those sometimes repeated traumas, if you're persistently exposed to those traumas, that can really cause you to be super anxious about it. You're worried it's going to happen again. You're hypervigilant. You're looking over your shoulder. You're distrustful of people. You may have nightmares about it. You may re-experience it. And it really disrupts your life, not only for your own functioning, but in your interactions with other people, and even ability to go back into situations where you think that same trauma may happen again. Absolutely. So, yes.
Oh my gosh. Thank you for that huge umbrella of trauma, because it can be so insidious and prevalent, that we don't even recognize certain things as trauma, like neglect, or other subtle, and they're not subtle, right? Like that, but like you said, even the perceived threat, right? Like if your brain and body perceive it as threatening, how it can affect us.
That is so true.
So true. And it's so prevalent, right? Like you said, like microaggressions and actual trauma and lived trauma of, just existing.
Exactly.
So then how does it affect our social life, relationships, and overall our functioning?
Okay, so good question. So like I was saying before, it affects us in all areas. So for sure, let me say this first. So it can affect us from a behavioral perspective, right? It can make us behave more impulsively, maybe even more aggressively. Again, if something bad has happened to you, it can put you on guard. And so you're ready to snap at someone or you're ready to fight, because often when we're in a situation where we're scared or fearful, it's either fight or flight. And so a lot of times people with PTSD, they may seem like they have a really bad attitude. They may seem as if they're hostile or super aggressive or always ready to fight. But again, that's a direct consequence of the repeated trauma that they've experienced or some severe singular trauma that they've experienced.
Absolutely.
It can also affect us emotionally. So it can be really difficult to regulate our emotions. We may be super sad. We may be super withdrawn. Like we said, even depression and sadness sometimes can manifest as anger, irritability, and, standoffishness. You may not want to talk to people. You may have a chip on your shoulder, And so again, that can affect us from a social perspective, in that other people won't know how to perceive, like, what's going on with you? Why are you always angry? Why are you always upset? Why are you always so combative? And so it impairs social relationships and even, close familial relationships, or, even just casual relationships. The other thing too is it can affect us cognitively, in that, our perceptions change. We may kind of have like depersonalization, not feel like we're in our body. We may feel like things aren't quite real around us. We may feel like we're hearing things, seeing things that aren't there. And some of that paranoia even can, again, be due to the trauma. And then last but not least, a lot of times people will experience somatic symptoms. So symptoms in their body, where, they have stomach pains because they're so anxious or nervous in certain situations. They may feel shaky. Their heart is racing. They're short of breath, and a myriad of other symptoms. But I like what you were saying. You're right. Those ACEs, or the, the traumas, the things that you experience in childhood, can definitely not only affect you mentally, but also affect you physically with shorter lifespans and, chronic illnesses and all of the co-occurring disorders. So yeah, it affects us in so many ways.
So many. So then these experiences, again, they seem, what you're describing, the person who is angry and, who blows up at work and who has trouble holding jobs because, I know these people, right? And we see it everywhere. So how common is this?
Right. So PTSD affects about, and I've seen it quoted differently in different places, anywhere from 3.5 to about 7% of the population is affected by PTSD. And it seems to be that often, I feel like in populations of color, it's underreported.
Absolutely. Yeah.
And, a lot of times, like you said, there will be a lot of adverse things that you're living through either as a child, and it could be lack of resources. It could be one parent, homes. It could be, like we said, racism. It could be microaggressions. It could be all these things, and they compound and really affect you, like we said, not only mentally, but physically, with shorter lifespans and, more chronic illnesses and all of that. So yes, absolutely. I think it's probably higher in minority populations.
Definitely. And I think it's definitely something that's very underdiagnosed or even underrecognized,
Yes.
Also, sometimes we don't even think about how trauma may affect us before we're even cognitive that we've had trauma and that it is perpetuating in our lives, and everything, not everything, but it affects lots of chronic illnesses, the way that we even go about the world. So then, are there any treatment options for this? So here it is, we all have it, or there's pieces of it.
Right. So yes, there are several treatments for it. So first off, therapy is really important. And even first, let me even go back for a second. So first off, just being open to talking to someone about what's going on. So even if that's within your own family, if there's been physical abuse or if there's been sexual abuse, a lot of times we're kind of made to keep it quiet.
Absolutely.
But even just finding someone in the family that you feel that you can confide in, or if not in the family, someone outside of the family that you feel comfortable just even opening up to and voicing what your experience has been, how you feel, what's continuing to go on, and trying to seek some type of solace or safety is really the important first step.
That's
even just admitting what happened.
Thank you. Right. That is, I do want to give everybody an opening to healing this, and at least getting on the right path. So
right. And the problem is often, especially in our communities of color, we're led to believe that mental illness is a sign of weakness and you should be able to get over it and suck it up or pray more, or, you're just making that up, when really that's not the case. And so really just having our community be more open to listening and really, looking out for signs of PTSD and mental illness, and not criticizing or chastising people or making them to feel bad about it, but to saying, hey, I hear your experience. I hear what you're going through. Maybe I can help you find help, is really important. So, but let's say we're at the point where we've admitted it, we're not accepting blame for whatever the trauma was. Definitely, again, if you're able to get in with a counselor or a therapist first, that's going to be really helpful. Someone who's familiar with the symptoms, and who can really help you with coping skills or specific types of therapy that can help. So for instance, cognitive behavioral therapy is a type of therapy that's really helpful. And I think the one specifically for trauma is cognitive processing therapy. But basically,
yeah, that's awesome.
Yes, cognitive processing therapy. But basically, it's using the idea of CBT, so cognitive behavioral therapy, where your thoughts, the automatic thoughts that you have, influence how you feel. Your feelings then influence your actions and your behavior. And then from there, your actions influence your outcome. And so you can imagine if you're starting off with a really negative or, angry, anxious, or whatever thought, like, oh my gosh, I might have been physically abused by my mom. Every time I see her, I know she's going to physically abuse me again. That's going to make you feel scared, worried, angry, upset, probably even frustrated, And from there, it's going to make you behave in ways that are maladaptive. And from there, it's going to make your outcome worse. And it's a vicious cycle. So with cognitive processing therapy, it's supposed to help you kind of tackle those negative thoughts that arise first off, maybe challenge them, change them to something more positive, more realistic, and then hopefully have a more positive outcome as a result. Okay. So that's one type of therapy. Another type of therapy, definitely EMDR. So eye movement desensitization and reprocessing psychotherapy. And basically what that does is it's talk therapy, but it has an element of like either a moving object that you focus on back and forth, or some sound that kind of goes back and forth. And while listening to that or seeing that, you're supposed to be kind of recalling traumatic instances or traumatic memories. And hopefully through that process with a therapist guiding it, it will help you to kind of reset or kind of change the way that you experience the emotions and everything in processing that trauma. So it's supposed to help you kind of process it and get through it and be able to overcome it. Okay. So those are two really good therapeutic techniques to use. Outside of that, definitely, I'm sorry, just thought of one more. So there's also like exposure therapy, prolonged exposure therapy, where basically, if something has been traumatic for you, of course, with the help of a, licensed professional, they'll gradually, have you either recall the event and help you develop coping skills while you're revisiting it and kind of becoming desensitized to it. But also they may even have you like in person go to the place again or encounter the person again that caused the trauma again to try to help you process it and not have the same negative effect that you once had as a result.
Absolutely. Yes. So this is about processing those things and
exactly. Yeah. And trying to be able to move beyond it and not let those stimuli or triggers trigger you to the same degree, and cause the same impairment. Yeah. Outside of therapy, though, there definitely are medicines as well that can be helpful to manage a lot of the, like you said, the symptoms. So the anxiety, the fears, the aggression, the anger, the irritability, maybe even some of the withdrawal. And oftentimes SSRIs are used, so the antidepressants. And also there's some other medicines that may be used for more of the hyperarousal or some of the agitation. Those may be either mood stabilizers or antipsychotic medications, and even some medicines to help with the insomnia that often comes with PTSD.
And nightmares, right? With the
Absolutely. Yeah. So nightmares are common with PTSD. And actually, I'm not sure if you know, but prazosin, which is typically a blood pressure medicine, is really good to help with nightmares associated with PTSD as well as some of the insomnia. So,
for sure.
Yes.
For sure. Definitely. Yeah. And this environment, just as primary care, I've had to see just a lot of people. So for sure.
Awesome. Yeah.
Again, this is why I got interested in it, because it's, people with lots of experiences and, just when they're not processing it, I often see the end result. I see like acid reflux and, migraines and just, you know, all of this. But
somatic symptoms of it, right? You're seeing a lot of that.
we're the same. Definitely.
Exactly. But you know what? I love that you're so passionate about it, because again, you may be the first doctor that someone sees. And again, you're recognizing symptoms that most people would overlook. Like, oh, okay, so you got some stomach cramping, you got maybe some ulcers going on, you got other things going on. Okay, well, and some people will just take it for that, just at face value. But I love that you're aware, and definitely being culturally competent and all that good stuff. To look for, well, hey, then let's figure out what's behind all that. What's causing that? What have you been through? And then if you feel the need to direct them to a psychiatrist like me, then definitely we can kind of work more on the PTSD side of things.
Absolutely. That's what eventually ended up happening. I was like, have you had some trauma? I see. Is everything okay? But absolutely. So you gave us so many tools. And people come to you after either they've seen somebody like me, they'll go to their regular doctor with these symptoms, and hopefully their doctor will recognize this, or recognize, you have this anxiety and this insomnia that's just not getting better, right? We're just, or, you're still struggling in other aspects, because it's a complex, syndrome.
You're right.
Then when people want to see you, how can we see you? How can we find you? I loved everything you told me. I want
Absolutely. So the easiest way to get in contact with me is through my website, and see, wonderful, you have it there, eliteexcellencemd.com. And so that'll have all of my contact information. It has a bit of information about my background, information about my practice, the type of services that I offer. I'm transparent with my pricing. And then also just any way that you need to get in contact with me, or information you want to find out about me, you can find out through the website.
Love it.
And so I'm sorry.
Price, that means that I can come see you, right? It's not that I have to have the right insurance. I can just, you're in Illinois, and you're a Black woman, and thank you. You understand my day to day.
Absolutely. Yes. And again, that's part of why I went into psychiatry too. I feel like so much in our community, people are misdiagnosed. People are given the wrong treatments, or even, improper treatments, or given severe treatments that they don't really need to have, because people don't see providers that tend to look like you or understand you, or even, take the time to want to learn about what's going on with you. And that leads to a lot of misdiagnosis, mistreatment. And it just puts a bad taste in the mouths of, our people that, wait a minute, I came for this. Why are you doing this? And why is this causing this problem? And, I feel like I'm not being heard. So absolutely. I want to say
that is the, of people not being heard or listened to, and misdiagnosed, or underdiagnosed. And again, on all of these medicines that may not be right for them.
Exactly.
Or the right treatment for them, because, we didn't take time to really be with them and, listen to them. So
you're right. And let me just even add this, if I may. So like you said, misdiagnosis, a lot of times, African-Americans or people of color, there may be PTSD present, but they might be diagnosed with bipolar disorder because of the, anger, the irritability, the impulsivity, the rage, or whatever. Or they may even be diagnosed with schizophrenia. And it's not even true paranoia from a psychotic standpoint. It's more, I've actually lived through this before, and I'm scared it's going to happen again.
Absolutely. My body's afraid that it's going to happen again. Absolutely.
Exactly.
Oh my gosh, that is so true. And as people of color, Black people, we are often overdiagnosed for those conditions, rather than, again, someone with cultural competence, someone not necessarily that looks like you, but that at least understands you. Understand if they look like you, immediately they understand you, right? There's less work that we have to do, but somebody that just listens and understands.
Exactly. And that's what it takes, like a provider, or, a physician or a clinician who's open-minded, who is just interested in learning about you genuinely, your experience, what you're going through, and how you're responding to it. Like you said, they don't have to look like you, but they need to be open-minded and willing to learn.
Absolutely. And I find generally we can tell fairly soon how open people are to helping us, especially people in positions to help us, right? Saying dismiss people who you think don't look like you, or maybe don't understand you, but get somebody that works for you, right? Don't see a doctor or provider, anyone, right, that's not serving you across the board. Yeah.
I agree, because like you said, it's a service provider. They're there to serve you. And so if you're not happy for whatever reason, I do like to advocate for people to say, hey, speak up for yourself. If you're not getting what you need, speak up first. Don't just leave and ghost people.
That's true. That's
right.
True.
Right. But at the same time, if you're getting a repeated vibe like, hey, this person doesn't have my best interest at heart, or they don't seem to be open to what I'm saying, then by all means, try to find someone that will.
Absolutely. I agree. First, you need to give people the chance to meet you where you are, because maybe there's a misunderstanding. We always need to, wait for that. But, if they're not, like you said, vibing with you, then you find somebody that does. But we do be open with people in the same way that you said. First, you have to want to talk to somebody and be willing to open up, because you're just gonna not waste your time. I think even thinking along about healing is a good direction, right? So even if it's to tell yourself, I'm broken and I need some help, but you have to be open and find somebody that's open to you, and we well, thank you so much, Dr. Corey. This was amazing.
Thank you, Dr. Brooks. Yeah, you brought up a great topic. And like I said, I'm so glad that you're passionate about it, and that you being on the front lines, you're seeing and recognizing and directing people to the care that they need. So thank you for all that you do.
Thank you for all that you do. I'm glad that I can refer people to you. Like thank you. Thank you. This was wonderful. I will certainly have you. There was so much to talk. Again, like I could have did a whole show on the last part. Like it's just so much.
Please do. I've enjoyed this conversation, and I would love to work with you again.
Absolutely. Thank you so much. Thank you.
Have a good night.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
Yeah.